When creating your own homebrew pen and paper system, there's a lot of things to be taken into account, like what kind of dice should I use, what skills should be in the system, and all sorts of other questions. Hopefully, I will make that choice a bit easier at the end of this video.
Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
When starting up a new scenario, you're often left with a choice. You need to create it yourself, or you need to buy a box. A box is something that someone else has made and you can buy with money. The benefit of the box is that you can simply pick up the system and start playing. The benefit of the homebrew system is that you can get everything exactly as you want it, as you and your group prefers to play. So you have a choice. Let's sketch out the benefits of both choices. The easy thing about a box system is that you basically need to buy some books and maybe some dice and get going. And there's a lot to choose from. I mean, a lot to choose from. That being said, it's often easier to create a homebrew system if you tried a lot of the boxed sets beforehand, as a homebrew system will usually be based upon something that you already know. So, in short, the benefit of the box is that it's easy to pick up and it's easy to use, and the benefit of the homebrew system is that you'll get everything exactly as you want it. But what do you want from a system? That's a bit of a tricky question, and in order to answer that I'll need to shed some light on some of the core components of pen and paper. Let's take one of the most classic pen and paper systems, Dungeons & Dragons. Like most systems, Dungeons & Dragons is composed of a combat system and a skill system. The two interact to a certain extent, but in my opinion not terribly well. So let's say we wanted to create a role-playing system where you didn't have to choose between being good at fighting and being good at talking. We maybe wanted to create a system where you didn't eat your own foot in an attempt to coerce a merchant to lower the price. There's many ways to achieve this. You could either take something from another system and add it to the Dungeons & Dragons core system. It's a bit difficult, but it can be done. Or you could tweak the Dungeons & Dragons system a bit. You could change the modifiers, you could change the stats, you could change the dice used. But this is all a bit technical, and there are things that are way more important that you should consider when trying to create a system. Things such as, what do you like? Most systems place themselves somewhere between improv theater and a regular board game. Depending on your preference, you'll place yourself somewhere in this spectrum. This is highly subjective, but I think that Dungeons & Dragons, played in the classical manner, places itself a bit to the right on this spectrum. With its heavy focus on combat, heavy use of dice mechanics, tables and rules, it's more prone to be played like a board game. So what you should decide for yourself is where you place yourself on this dichotomy. Personally, I have moved from preferring the board game style of role-playing towards the more improv-focused style over the years. Another thing you should consider is whether you like action or talk. Talk being a symbol for anything that is not action or combat-based. While this is not always the case, an action-heavy game will often play out like a board game. So if we completely disregard genre and other factors, the two main things that you should decide is how heavily your system should focus on talk and action, and how heavily it should focus on improv, and how much it should look like a board game. Let's take an example. Here's a system that I created for a sci-fi setting. It uses both the stat and the skill system from World of Darkness. It uses the DC system of Dungeons & Dragons, and it uses the dice of the Dark Heresy system from Fantasy Flight games. If you want a system with heavy focus on combat, this might not be ideal for you. Which underlines the point of this whole video, which is no system is perfect, but you need to find the system that fits for the way that you play role-playing games. This is a skill-based system and it should be used as such. As you saw, the system that I presented before is made up from several smaller pieces from other boxes. So you don't have to make everything from scratch, you can simply steal or borrow from something else. Just keep in mind that sometimes less is more. Don't create a system that tries to do everything at once, because it simply can't. And you will probably be worse off creating a Frankenstein's homebrew than just running a regular Pathfinder game or Dungeons and Dragons game. In future videos I will try to get more specific and in-depth with the separate systems, such as Pathfinder or Dungeons and Dragons or World of Darkness or whatever. I hope this helped in any sort of way, and if it did, please like and subscribe. This was Dragons in Space, and I will see you soon with more pen and paper Metamagic.